Hi everyone, this is Eric Bond, the founder of Beat the GMAT, and welcome to the Write Like an Expert series. Today we're going to be examining the essay questions for this year's 2012-2013 Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth MBA application. So if you're new to the Write Like an Expert series, this is actually a set of webinars that we put on each year for the Beat the GMAT community, where we ask top MBA admissions experts to join us live to break down each essay question for the world's most competitive business schools. And joining us live are our very good friends at a firm called ClearAdmit. So ClearAdmit, if you haven't heard of them, is a top educational consulting and counseling firm. They're known for a unique and personalized methodology of combining perspectives of MBA admissions officers, expert editors, MBA students, and MBA applicants to maximize your chances for gaining acceptance to the world's most competitive business schools. They're definitely a top firm in this industry and have a really great website. Check out clearadmit.com. They have a fantastic blog as well as a great wiki resource for you. And our featured guest for today is a consultant with ClearAdmit. Her name is Stacy Euler. Stacy is actually a regular in the Beat the GMAT community, a very, very active expert on our site. She has the ideal background for leading today's session because she's a former assistant director of admissions at Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth. She was responsible for reading applications, conducting interviews, and participating in admissions decisions for the Tuck MBA program. So, of course, she's someone with a lot of insider perspectives to share for today. Previous to joining ClearAdmit, Stacy was a leader in the West Coast recruiting practice for McKinsey & Company. So, just a little bit about today's structure. In a moment, I'm going to hand it off to Stacy to have her lead us through her analysis of this year's 2012-2013 Tuck MBA application essay questions. She's going to go through her presentation, and after the presentation, for the time that remains in the session, we're going to have Stacy stick around to participate in a live Q&A with our audience. So if you have a question that you would like to pose to Stacy about Tuck, you can post your question as a new comment right here on the Tuck MBA Watch comment wall. This is going to be a moderated chat, so there won't be any audio or video, but it'll be all text chat. And we'll see the questions coming in, and we will publish each question one by one for Stacy to answer, and hopefully we'll get through as many questions as we can for the remaining time. So that about covers it, and I think we are ready to get started. So Stacy, the floor is all yours.
Thanks, Eric. I'm happy to be here. Let's go ahead and get started. So, as Eric said, I am Stacy Euler, and I am an admissions consultant for ClearAdmit. We are a counseling firm that guides candidates through the process of applying to top MBA programs, both in the U.S. and internationally. I have been with ClearAdmit for 4 years, and prior to joining, I was at McKinsey & Company, where I led, MBA, advanced professional degree in undergraduate recruiting. And prior to that, I was assistant director of admissions at the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth. So I've been in MBA admissions and recruiting for a little over 10 years now. So that's just a little bit about me, but you guys are here to learn about Tuck essays and talk about their application for this year. So Tuck made a couple of changes, or one change, I guess, to their application this year, and that they now have 3 required essays instead of 4 from last year. And what they really did is they actually took their 4th essay and they combined it into the first essay. So you're actually still getting the exact same questions, they just combined them a little bit. So for those of you reapplying and you look at what you did last year, a lot of it will be applicable this year in regard to some of the questions that they're asking. But 3 questions, they're keeping their 500-word limit each, which is actually, I think, a nice amount of words for an essay. I think 500 just kind of keeps things right on track, and it's a nice balance. I think 250 is too short, 750 gets kind of long. 500 is just a really nice, strong essay, and I think it works for their prompts as well. So let's talk about each of them. Let's start with the first one. So the first essay, why is an MBA a critical next step towards your short and long-term career goals? Why is Tuck the best MBA program for you? And what will you uniquely contribute to the community? And that unique contribution component was the final essay question last year that they've tacked onto the essay this year. So what I like about this essay is it's just a straightforward career goals essay. I mean, it's just as cut and dry as it gets. It's basically saying, tell us what you're doing, why are you at a natural turning point, and why do you need an MBA, and then why do you need an MBA from Tuck. Keep in mind that Tuck is a very small program. It's one of the smallest business schools in the US with a class size of around 260. So when you think about that, the reason they're asking about their community and kind of why this program and how will you fit in is because they don't have a lot of room. So they're really trying to uniquely shape the class and really balance it out so that they've got people representing all industries, all countries, all different backgrounds. It's really important to them. So doing your research on the school is going to be critical. I mean, it's talking to students, talking to alumni, really getting involved and engaged in the school and learning a lot about it will take you a long way in this essay. So definitely want to convince them that this is the right program for you. This is not an essay where you can go and copy or cut and paste, replace Kellogg with Tuck. That's not going to work. You really do have to personalize it. Your career goals are essential to this essay. I mean, they're just flat out asking you, what do you want to do, short-term and long-term? So you need to think about your immediate post-MBA goal, as well as your long-term, 5-10-year goal after that. So really think that through. Be specific. I know that there's always a lot of questions around a career goals essay as to how specific should one be. I think a lot of people are afraid of sort of pigeonholing themselves into something and looking too specific, and that scares them. But then there's sort of the counter argument to that if you're vague, then it's hard to be convincing. So really define your goals. Talk about companies that might be a good fit for you. List one or two. Talk about the role that you see yourself having in the organization, the impact that you can have, and how that ultimately will lead you to your long-term goal. The MBA basically is the stepping stone for you. It's the critical necessity for you to achieve that goal. So be sure that you demonstrate a clear turning point in your career. The MBA becomes critical, why you actually need the MBA, why it's necessary, not just a nice to have, and then go into your short and long-term goals. Then the last part of the question here, which is the unique contribution to the community. So again, this kind of goes back to small school, really looking for interesting people, how they're going to add value, how they're going to contribute. They want people that aren't just going to show up and go to class every day. They want students who will show up, go to class, and then go and run an activity and be really involved in things. And so demonstrating what differentiates you, how you'll fit in, doing your research, knowing what clubs you'll join, what clubs you might start, really important for this essay. So take your time, spell it out. They're giving you the structure by giving you the 3 prompts in that order. That's the way they like to see it. So remember, 500 words, the most important thing to get out of here is your goals and why Tuck, not a summary of your career history to date. Let's move on to the second essay. So the second essay is again a repeat from last year. It's discussed your most meaningful leadership experience. What did you learn about your own individual strengths and weaknesses through this experience? So this is sort of a common MBA application question, I think both in essays as well as in interviews. So this shouldn't be that hard for people to think about and come up with topics when you're applying. So what you want to think about, so your most meaningful leadership experience. So that can come from the workplace or that can come from another activity. A lot of times applicants just aren't at a point in their career where they've had that opportunity to lead. And so they have to go outside of the workplace to gain those leadership experiences. So using something from an extracurricular activity is completely fine. I think you just need to use the best example. I think it should be a little bit more recent. I think if you go too far back in the past, 2 or 3 years, they might wonder why you haven't had such wonderful opportunities since. What have you been doing? So try and pick something a little bit more recent because you are sort of defining yourself. This is your most meaningful experience. So you've kind of been building up your career or your experience and expertise to this moment. So it should be pretty defining. But the second part of the question is what's really, I think, tricky for most people. And this is the individual strengths and weaknesses that you learned. The strengths, pretty easy to point out. I think that's kind of cut and dry. This is how I impacted the organization's bottom line. I'm going to reflect on this process here, show you my personal development. I was able to grow here, or we learned this. It's really easy to talk about strengths. It's that weakness component. And I think that a lot of applicants make a mistake here in that they try and gloss over the weakness and they try not to kind of run out of room conveniently and don't write about it. Or the worst mistake is to pick a veiled strength. So basically they say like something that's just oh, I really learned, how to get along with team members even more than before. And it's just like, okay, you already just said you were really great at teamwork, and now you're saying you got better. That's a veiled strength. So pick something that's a true weakness, like a true developmental experience that you had, where you had this area where you were lacking and you actually learned. You were able to step up to the plate and demonstrate something. Be honest. They'll see right through it if you're trying to pick a veiled strength or if you're just picking something that's not really that sincere. So be honest here. Again, this is a small school with a really small admissions committee who sits down and spends a lot of time talking about these essays for each applicant. So be honest and sincere, and I think you can do a good job in this essay. So let's go to essay number 3. The last essay, again, 500 words, just like the others. It's describe a circumstance in your life in which you faced adversity, failure, or a setback. What actions did you take as a result, and what did you learn from this experience? Okay, this is not an unusual business school essay. I think I can point to other schools that actually have very similar questions this year. I mean, Harvard has a question very similar to this as well. I think that the one thing that's a little bit unique to it is they're just flat out asking you, what actions did you take as a result, and what did you learn? So don't get too hung up on the setback itself. Talk about the experience. Talk about what you learned. Talk about the impact that it had. That's more important. I think focusing too much of this essay on the actual circumstance is not the right approach here. You really want to just kind of get straight to the point. This is what happened, and then really talk about the impact that you had and what you learned from that. And that should be the majority, sort of 2/3 of your essay should be the impact and the learning experience that resulted from this, and not actually describing everything that led up to this failure or this setback. So this really is an opportunity to showcase resilience, resourcefulness, the ability to learn from an experience and grow. One thing to keep in mind is to think about the timing of this setback. I think that I tend to coach my clients to pick something that's a little bit older, not quite too recent, something maybe 2 or 3 or 4 years ago. I think that if you pick something that happened in the last year, it might be the most relevant experience for you. It might be too recent to really truly demonstrate that you've had a chance to learn from this experience and kind of overcome it and apply it to other sort of opportunities and things that have happened. So going forward, so pick something that's a little bit older, and I think that you're in a better spot to really prove that you've had the chance to grow and learn and apply those skills. So keep that in mind. Again, there's a broad range of topics for this essay, just as the one before. It's certainly okay to pick something that's professional or something that's an extracurricular activity, something personal, something academic. I think a lot of it depends on where you are in your career. If you're just 2 or 3 years out, then the example might really truly be something from when you were an undergrad, or it could be something from an extracurricular experience, because that might be where you have had more of an opportunity to get involved and sort of lead things and actually have a chance to fail or have a setback. Sometimes personal examples work really well for this. I just caution you that if you use a personal example, make sure it's about you. I think that oftentimes there are things that happen to others in our lives, like our parents or our siblings, and while they have a huge sort of impact on us, that's not what this question's asking. They're asking about something that happened to you. So telling a story about your father's illness or something like that, while deeply moving and probably really did impact your life, it's not a personal setback. So just remember to keep it to something that actually happened to you, that you experienced, so that you're relevant in actually answering the question. Key qualities that you want to demonstrate in this essay. They're basically, what Tuck is trying to get out of this is they're trying to figure out, well, how are you going to react when things don't go your way? You've graduated from business school, you've got your MBA, you're in your first role, you're leading a team, or you're leading an organization, and something bad happens. What you do now is really indicative of what you might do later. So that's what they're trying to figure out here. Does this person have the maturity, the insight, the reflection in order to handle these types of situations going forward? I think there's a lot of things that someone can learn in business school that can help them make better business decisions, but ultimately how you react to these situations is something deeply personal, and that's what they're trying to get out of this essay here. So focus on the steps that you took to overcome this situation as well, the growth, the lesson learned. Don't spend too much time talking, as I said before, about the setback or the failure. That's not what you want them to remember from this essay. You want them to take away the lessons that you learned and the growth that you've experienced. So Tux made it really easy this year. 3 essays, 500 words, really deeply personal. Using examples from work is certainly relevant, from extracurricular activities. Try and strike a balance on those. If you write essay 2 about something personal, essay 3 should probably be professional or vice versa. So just be sure that you strike a balance there. Applying to business school is all about getting remembered. So pick your stories really well. Really think them through. Think about things that truly represent you and who you are and the picture that you want to paint for them. I think that's extremely important for this school, as is doing your research. They are a school that welcomes everybody to interviews, so take advantage of that and get to campus if you can sooner than later so that you can incorporate the things that you've learned and the people that you met into your essays to help personalize them. I think that'll go a really long way. So just a couple of things about Clear Admit before I take questions. We have a few things that we offer. We have our one-on-one consulting services, and you can just email us your resume or your CV to set up an appointment to talk to one of us about your profile and your business school applications. We have our publications, which I think are a fantastic resource. We have school guides, interview guides. We also have mini guides that we introduced this year that are basically our school snapshots, and there's 28 of them, and they're just really great little guides as you're doing research and trying to pick your schools. They give a lot of information in a really quick read. So definitely recommend that, and those are free on our website. And then we have just our admissions community. I'm sure a lot of you might be familiar with our website and our blog. We really try and keep a lot of up-to-date information there, interviews with AdCom members, things like that. And then we have a video series that we put out last year that's available through Beat the GMAT, and that's navigating the MBA admissions process. So check that out as well. And now I am ready for your questions.
Stacy, thank you so much for that great analysis. For those of you who might have joined us a little bit late, we've been listening to Stacy Euler, who is a consultant with ClearAdmit, walk through her breakdown and analysis of this year's 2012-2013 Tux School of Business at Dartmouth MBA application essay questions. So at this time, as Stacy just said, we are ready to take on your questions live. We are going to begin our live Q&A. So if you do have a question about Tuck that you would like to have answered live right now, you can enter your question as a new comment right here on the Tuck School of Business MBA Watch comment wall. This is going to be a moderated chat, so there's not going to be any video or audio, but we will see your questions coming in, and we'll publish your questions one by one so that Stacy can respond to them, and hopefully we'll get through a lot of questions in this Q&A period. So let's get started soon, but before we do, I just want to say a big thank you to our good friends at ClearAdmit. Definitely check out clearadmit.com after this session, as well as Stacy Euler for that great analysis and presentation for today. And also, I would be remiss to not thank you guys. So thank you guys so much for coming to today's Write Like an Expert series session. And let's get started with these questions right now.